former Monmouth Academy Building Committee. Item number 2 would be acceptance of minutes from August 30th. Everybody review.
I move we accept.
Except we have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion. Did I say that?
Motion was made by.
Motion made by Lori and seconded by Chris. Just learning.
Any discussion?
And any discussion beyond that? No? Okay.
Mr. Brown,
Discussion?
on the minutes.
Oh, on the minutes. No. Yes, acceptance. I'm sorry.
Mr. Bougie,
Yes, accepted.
Mrs. Gifford,
Yes, accepted.
Mrs. Hodgson,
Yes, accepted.
Ms. Sanborn,
Yes.
Mrs. Simpson. Sarah, you have to unmute yourself and say it. Thank-
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
All right, as to item 3, discussion selection of architectural engineering firm. I have to recuse myself, so Linda will be taking that over. Over here.
Normally, the process would be for someone to make a motion first and get a second on the floor and have discussion, but I'm not sure you guys are ready to make a motion yet. So you want to just have general discussion about your thoughts about the interviews?
Do we want to have each person list, like 1, 2, 3, 4, how they felt?
Sure,
Then we could get some kind of a consensus.
yeah.
I think the first thing we ought to do is maybe go over the pricing of what each firm had for their, I mean, it's not that the bottom line is the most important thing, but it's nice to consider. If we could just put that out there for discussion.
You want to lead off with that or?
Well, I think Chris had a better handle on that than I did.
Well,
What I thought I was doing, wasn't sure I was
Well,
getting the numbers.
it got confusing because, some of them, or 3 of them gave bottom lines with a total, or I should say 2 of them gave total sums. Others gave just a breakdown of funds, and then their design fee. So if we go in order of who we saw first with Paul and Turk, their total proposed fee is $139,500, so $139,500.
And then you said was total.
That was just their fee, but they're saying, they've got 1.7 to work with, and they went down through that with soft costs and what the estimated soft costs are and all of that. So if we look at design fees, that was Paul and Turk. And then we met with Oak Point. Their design fee was.
One quick question.
Sure.
Now, none of these include the elevator or the Lula.
I don't believe they really put that in there
Okay.
specifically. They just kind of did, if we look at.
Right. Well, I just wanted to make sure, because I don't think we told them that we needed an elevator.
No.
specifically. So
No,
that's fine, Chris.
yeah, none of them I see it as a line item. I think it's all kind of in there as,
I believe that would come in under construction costs, not
Yeah,
design.
exactly.
And we're just looking at the engineering costs right now,
Right.
Larry.
Right. Uh-huh.
and then we saw Oak Point number 2, their fees were $196,980, so $196,980. They didn't have any of the breakdown of funds and construction costs. That was not included in their proposal. And then number 3 was artifacts, and I don't know, it doesn't really have a number, but I think Owens had given us that, and it was 312. So
312. thousand
Nine.
even?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I think it's
I think
12,960, including clerk of works.
How much?
I think it's 312,960, including clerk of works.
so maybe you found it on a page. I didn't find it.
That was the number that I found.
That's the number you found. I might not have found it and printed the appropriate
I'm not
page.
sure I did it right, but
Is
Oh,
it-
I see it too.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
I probably printed the
Okay.
wrong page.
Yeah, it's
So-
on, I don't even know, but it's number 7, professional services continued. And it's got A/E fee total $312,760.
Okay.
okay.
And that's what I think I had written down with when Owens was going through it, so. But their probable construction costs, their bottom line was almost $2 million. It was just shy of $2 million, which obviously is over our budget.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of way over budget.
And then last was Lewis and Mom, and their fees and services is $213,777.
Did that include a clerk of the works or anything like that? No, right?
A
No.
construction manager, TBD, so if required, so.
I seem to remember from the interviews, nobody said they had that included.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not sure.
artifacts included, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah,
Sign language.
yeah.
Text me.
Mhm.
Okay. I like the idea of going around and giving our 1 through 4. Go for it. Okay, I'll be very honest. I was impressed with Turk because to me, they were so passionate about wanting to preserve the look so that when people drive by, they see what everybody really voted on to save was that look. So I would say they were my first. Lewis and Mom were my second because I felt that they really kind of got what we were saying. I'll say that Oak Point, I did not have they turned me off completely. Absolutely. And Artifacts, yeah, I didn't care for them either. So I would say my top 2 would be Turk and Lewis and Mom would be my top 2.
I have the same batting order you did. I liked Paul and Turk. I thought they were very passionate. They were a smaller firm that I thought they could maybe give us more personalized service than the bigger firms. Lewis and Malm had, some local people on their list, which I did like. I'd like to keep it as local as possible. And then Oak Point and Artifacts weren't quite in my liking.
And I'm the same. I listed, the top 2 would be Lewis and Malm and Turk Arc. And I mean, when I look at the price differences, I guess I would, I would switch. I had Lewis Malm as my number 1 choice, and Turk as my second. But when I look at the price differences, I think I would reverse them now.
So I really liked Turk and Paul. I liked it that, Lewandowski grew up in Lewiston, and, if you grew up in Lewiston, you kind of know about Monmouth and vice versa. I liked that they had such strong mentoring for the kids that they had with them. I think that's really nice because I think that makes a huge difference, especially if
Mhm.
they're letting these kids be a part of the process. I think the only Lewis and Mom being my second, the only thing about them that I liked over everybody else is about the landscape architect, because I think we'll have to put some time and effort into landscaping to complete the picture. And that's really important. And we can, bring that up with with Paul and Chuck as well. And make sure, we have something in the kitty left to complete the vision. So.
Some of the landscaping could be done by the town crew too, I would think.
I think that it's gonna be, to have a design is the most important part, because if we have a vision of this as a venue, where would you put up a tent? Where would you have outdoor seating available? And, when they talked about this being a lot of pavement, yeah, I think the parking needs to be rethought. There's a lot of places to put parking because we're gonna have a huge space. I mean, these buildings.
Once
take
all the
up-
rest is gone.
Right, right. I
It's
think it'll be
gonna a
amazing to
huge
see.
space. And, to be able to utilize this front grassy area as well as the front in front of the academy. And then how much it'll change sloping down towards I call it the football field. But the
Fairgrounds.
That's gonna change a lot as well. And to be able to have it flow, to be usable in all those different directions, but having a landscape architectural plan, some sort of design to say, this is kind of what we need to do to make it a complete package. So, that's something we can talk about with whoever we choose. So, but definitely, I think Paul and Turk is my number one, Lewis and Long my second, so.
Sarah, you want to weigh in?
I will. I kind of hesitate because this is definitely not my forte. I did do checks on references for construction managers. And I know that I'm going against the flow, and I'm sorry about that. But this is just another perspective. Mike Pullen as a construction manager came very highly recommended and has won a plethora of awards. And so I just consider that as really important, as well as Lewis and Mom came highly recommended by a company, H.E. Sargent, who did a project with them. And when I was going through the numbers, I also asked for help from someone who was the president and CEO of a major construction company in the state of Maine. And they said that Turk was actually a little more expensive than we think because we don't have a clerk of works fee included in that price, as well as the construction management cost was not in their proposal. They also said that these proposals overall were pretty confusing. They weren't like super, super clear because some of the fees are not clear, like estimated construction cost, a detailed architect and engineering and construction fees. And some of them just aren't super, super clear. So that's fascinating to me. I also question, I don't know what your desire is for the building, but I really have to wonder about the grants and monies that are available for this building. And I don't know if there is like sort of a rush. Like, I don't know if we are in a rush for it. I don't understand the drive, the motivation fully. But if there are substantial funds available, I would really be curious to investigate them because I noticed that I agree, Artifacts is way too expensive. I think we could even ask them to come back and say, can you do anything about your design development cost? Can you do anything about your construction and your bidding fees? Can you do anything about that? They're they're twice as much as the others. Can they work on those? Because I've looked at the properties that they've worked on, and they are amazing. So if our goal in Monmouth is to use that structure to draw in people from all over the state and to foster economic development in Monmouth, then I really believe wholeheartedly that we have to give it the very best beauty treatment we can. And like Cumston Hall is so incredibly beautiful. It draws people for its beauty. So I just wonder about that. I wonder about the time. Like, are we in a rush? Or is it such a volatile market right now that we have time to really research those grant monies that are available? Because like the building in Corinna is such a poor town. I think I was reading earlier today that the median household income is right around $40,000. It's a very poor town, but they were able to get the money secured to really make the structure incredible. So I just wonder about that. I wonder about those possibilities. And if I don't know our time frame. I don't know if we're in a big rush, but if we have time on our side, I think it's worth raising the question of, do we want to really take the time to find out how much is really available to us? So that's all.
So Sarah, did you have a first choice though?
I am going between Lewis and Mom and Artifacts.
Okay.
Yeah, those two.
So if I can address the timing of everything, the longer we wait, the more damage is happening to the inside of the building. We have some serious leaks in the roof, and that's causing some damage within the building itself and within the 1856 portion. The worse that gets, the more expensive it's going to cost to renovate the interior. We also have borrowed the 1.5 million, and that is sitting in the bank for us. So we'll be doing a 90-day draw on that to start with, but at the end of the 90 days, which will be end of November, we'll have that money available to us. So I would not recommend that you let this go longer. The building is all closed up. There's no heat in it. And so that's what's adding to the deterioration inside.
And I think also for the last several years that it was utilized as a school, knowing that one was being built, any damage or repair that needed to be done was just a Band-Aid. It was
Or not done at all.
or not done at all. So it was, it was a quick fix, let's get through it. So if we had the time, but I have to agree with Linda that we don't, because of the damage. And we all know the worse it gets, well, you now have this rot as opposed
Right.
to a year ago, you didn't.
And I think that the timeline of the project is, a year anyway. I mean, from what I saw for timeline, so whether or not we come and get grant money right now or grant money at the end, and within a year that we can be working on possible grants, it doesn't matter. We'll always be able to, because of the type of loan Linda secured for us. It's not from the bond bank where you can't pay it off early. It's from Androscoggin Bank, which we can pay it off early. So any grant money we get, even at the end or even after the fact, we can still pay against the loan.
And if we get grant money at the end, we can add a few of the things that we may have to cut to meet the budget. There's a lot of stuff we can do.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sarah, I think you did a great job researching, but the one thing that I want to emphasize is that the exterior of the building is going to be the way it is now. So it's not like we need to redesign the bell tower or redesign the front. It's already designed the way it has to be. So we don't need an architectural firm to come up with new ideas. We just have to make sure that what we replace is done well. The interior is where you're gonna need the design ideas.
Mhm.
Right, and that's why I again, now I understand that there is a time, it's a time sensitive issue. But I was just thinking about what Artifacts does, and if they can come back with more numbers, can they come back and improve? I just wonder about that, instead of just taking what they have, seeing if they can improve on it. It's incredibly high.
Well, they're coming from Bangor too.
And I think some of the projects that Turk has worked on, they have done the Portland Observatory and, you know,
They were based out of Portland, right?
yes,
Right.
exactly.
Okay, I didn't have that on my list.
And, you know, they've done some, new construction, but they've also done some pretty significant, older buildings, you know, the one he spoke about a lot in Freeport and that.
There was
type of
one in
thing,
Yarmouth.
And in
Mhm.
Yarmouth, and that was the one I'm
Right.
looking at in Freeport. And then, this one is Portland City Hall. They actually did Portland
Oh,
City
did
Hall,
they?
which is
Yeah.
Mhm.
pretty amazing. And then, you know, being a UMO grad, they also worked on the preservation plan for all of their old buildings up there, which there are a lot on the Orono campus. The castle in the park in Deering Oaks, which is another beauty, that was essentially destroyed inside. And then in Machias Port, that building. So, you know, but the Portland Observatory, I think, was about ready to
Be condemned.
and
Mhm.
disappear. So the fact that they were able to work on some of those historic properties, and I know that, you know, Portland City Hall and those all have historic register designations. So that made me feel good about them, just seeing some of these projects, which are really well known.
Right.
Mhm.
But we never know who the people are working on them, but now we do. So that made me feel pretty good about Turk with what they've done on historic buildings. So,
I believe all of them have had
yes.
many amazing projects. If you look down through their list of projects, they've all done the good stuff. You know, the thing I go back to the most is when we had the meeting before last, the engineer suggested that we make sure we get somebody that we can really work with.
Right, right.
And I was impressed with the attitudes and everything of Paul and Turk. I thought they were very friendly. You know, I don't know if they were putting on a good show for the meeting, which I doubt.
I doubt it too.
I doubt it. I think they're genuine, nice folks,
Yeah.
and I think we would be able to work with them well.
I think Artifacts and Oak, just, they were just so rigid and to me cold. It was like, well, okay, so, oh, yeah, okay, we're at Monmouth today, so, but with Turk and with Lewis and Mom, I just felt like they really kind of researched more, were more open to, you know, hearing from us
Mhm.
what we envision and hope and, you know, and understand we're a small community, a small town. And this may seem little to Artifacts and Oak, but to us, it's huge. This is a huge undertaking. And I just felt like both Turk and Lewis and Mom got that.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you know, would they rather have a $4 or $5 million contract with somebody? Maybe, but I mean, I just felt like Turk and Lewis and Mom were kind of like, okay, we know this is small, but to you, it's the world and it's important.
And it is a big project for us.
It is.
Go ahead.
So does somebody want to make a motion for the recommendation to the select board?
I just want to add one thing. The funny thing about all of them is that many of them use the same people to do certain things, like Trillium. I mean, they all pretty much use them to do the site and the survey and all of that. And then they all use, essentially, really, I think the only game in town is, now there, the girl that does the cost estimate. You know, that
Sure.
cost estimating company, PCM, Preferred Construction Management. I think that they've got several different people that do that.
Construction in the state of Maine is a small
Small
community.
community.
It is.
Yeah.
You run into the same
people.
subcontractors and
Yes.
stuff.
So, you
year
know,
after
that
year,
was the funny
place after
part,
place.
because there were some guys that were on both nights as the background people.
Yeah.
And,
That was familiar.
Yeah, and,
Just
you
a
know,
different shirt.
so that's the other part of this, is that we know that they're not using people that are extraneous. They're kind of across the board, the same
Right.
sort of support staff that do specific things. So that also made me feel good about them. So
motion,
Does the motion be to accept?
One of.
the motion is to recommend
A certain.
X firm
Okay.
to the select board.
I would make that motion that we accept Paul Design Projects and Kirk Architecture.
I'll second.
It sounds to me like from the discussion, they're kind of at the head of the list.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
the motion was made by Steve, seconded by Chris. Discussion? Any more discussion?
I just wanted to
Anyone?
be, did they include the mechanical, plumbing, electrical, instructional engineering? I just want to be sure.
Yeah, because weren't they
Yeah.
sitting here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of theirs was in-house.
Yeah. So the civil, the structural, the ME, the EE, those are all included in the number one, that 144, 432. So all of the A&E reno fees were included in C1. So, and I think all of them hadn't planned or put in for a construction manager, because that's up to us to decide whether we were going.
To do design,
Yeah.
build, or a construction manager.
Right, the bid and spec or. Mhm.
Yeah, so I think that was across the board pretty,
And that's a decision I assume we make down the road once we get the architect
yeah,
selected and they have designs.
I would say that your next meeting, you're going to be meeting with the firm that the select board approves,
Okay,
Okay, and so this is going to what meeting?
October 6th. Any other discussion? Sarah, anything else? Anybody else? You ready to vote? Great. Mr. Brown,
yes, for Paul Design and Kirk.
Mr. Bougie,
Yes.
Mrs. Gifford,
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn,
yes.
Mrs. Simpson.
Yes.
It's unanimous. I will send this on to the select board for the October 6th meeting.
I just feel better that this part's over. I know there's a lot of work to do, but
But I said to Jeff, who am I to make this decision?
I know, I know.
You were chosen.
I
You were
was
chosen.
chosen.
You're all
Come
chosen.
back.
especially.
Now I can come back.
I was
Okay.
chosen, all right. You picked a-
You were like,
I'm the only one I haven't worked with.
so is that gonna be okay with you?
Oh, yeah, I felt very, very comfortable with them. And,
Okay.
So tell me, do you want me to reach out to them? Do you want to reach
Oh, I
out to
can, those,
them?
we can talk about that.
Okay.
I'm not sure, because again, I don't know the formalities that come with,
It doesn't really matter
okay,
which one of us does it. I would recommend that we do it tonight, though.
okay, all right, okay. we
Let
can
them
do
know.
that. Yeah.
And-
Let the-
I wish we could do it and see their reaction.
Yeah,
I just, they just were so.
but it still depends on,
It's
Yeah.
going to the select board,
Yeah.
but I,
They're,
you know, I do not speak for the select board, but they've chosen you to make this decision and recommend to them, so.
okay.
No,
I feel like a weight has been lifted.
Okay.
Whew,
no, and
okay.
I think it was good. I really like the stuff that you went over. The fund, the
Grant.
no, when she went through all of the numbers and contacted the, I'm having it's been a long day.
Savannah syndrome.
Yeah.
For the references.
The references were good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, all the
The
references.
references.
Thank you so very much. I think that was really good. And, you know, and it is something with what you said about the organization that we are recommending, you know, that will be part of the discussion, is how to make sure that what they end up making, which should be fair and reasonable, when it's all said and done, is really, you know, in our control to watch and to make sure that we don't creep up with like change orders.
Yes, that can
There's
happen.
an old
quite-
joke about, you have a 35-foot cabin cruiser named Original Contract, and that's the dinghy for the yacht that says
Yes.
Original Contract.
Yeah.
So that's obviously what we want to go with. but-
Yeah.
Okay, item number 4, fundraising. Kristen.
So Saturday, because it's only going to be brief showers at the Apple Fest. It's going to be a glorious day. I'll be at the Apple Fest, kind of kicking off the fundraising, letting people know. I'll have the letter that Linda did for us about fundraising, telling people how they can donate. I'll have a jar there that people can just throw money in, but I will also be there selling all my pumpkins and gourds and ornamental corn I grew in the garden. Because every year I struggle to get rid of them. I like growing them, but then you never know when you're gonna have. So I'm selling those. And I also have been working with Bianca Cloutier at Bates, or I should say their main heritage weavers, but I think we all know them as Bates Mill. But so, my grand idea about what this throw was going to be was, like a Martha Washington with a relief of Monmouth Academy, but that was really over the top to think that they could design that and do it, because I think it would end up being cost prohibitive in the end for especially a small run. So what Bianca came up with is doing one of their throws in maroon, and it'll be a natural. So it'll be an off-white natural cotton that they weave right in Monmouth. And then it's going to be a 2x3 leather patch with the Monmouth Academy in silhouette. And at the top, it says Monmouth Academy. And at the bottom, established 1803. I asked them if they'd put this on their website to sell for us, and she said they would. So we'll be able to reach everybody
Wow.
that they sell to. And it'll also be right on there that 100% will go to our fundraising. I mean, the throws cost $35 wholesale. And Linda and I talked a little bit about what we should charge for them. They retail for 70. So do we go to 70 or do we go? One of the things Bianca said was maybe if you go lower, you can sell more and make more money other than selling less at a higher price.
Right.
So I am going to pick up a throw tomorrow that doesn't have the patch, because that's about a 2-week process getting the patch. And I'm going to have it at the Apple Fest to show people and kind of do pre-orders. And I guess, my thing is trying to come up with what we, well, I guess, let's see, what did she say?
Is there going to be like a limited run of these, or how
They'll
does?
probably, I'm telling her, I'm hoping, 200 to 250, but if we sell those out, this is a throw that they make routinely there. So
So it's
it's
just adding the
it's
patch.
just adding the patch.
Okay.
So if we're getting down and we've sold everything that she does in a run, then I'm sure they'll be able to get more for us. And
How soon will they be able to have one?
she told me that it's about 2 to 3 weeks to get the patch and stitch them on. So I'm picking up one, just as, here's an example, and I'm going to print off what the final product is going to look like and have
Oh,
there and
okay.
say, this is what it's going to look like. So let's do some pre-orders. Anybody, I'll have a list that people want to do pre-orders with me. So I just want some guidance in what you folks think that we should sell these for. And because essentially we pay them the wholesale amount. The other really generous thing that she is doing is she said, we'd be willing to produce the throws for you and then collect payment on a monthly or bi-monthly basis as your team sells them to aid with the cash flow of the fundraiser. So I don't, have to come up with the money up front and buy 200 throws. She's going, as we sell them, we'll pay her for what
Oh,
we
excellent.
produce,
great.
which I thought was really generous. Of
That's
course,
very generous of
the
her.
kids went to school here and,
Mhm.
they're from Monmouth. In my heart of hearts, I wanted one that had on the throw Monmouth Academy, but working with a Monmouth company and how generous they're being, I think it's worth working with them on that, especially since they're gonna put it on the website
Right.
for
Oh,
us.
that's cool.
Get me, when you do your paper that you're gonna have out, send it to me and I'll put it on
Yes.
the alumni page as I am going to do the letter also.
Yeah. Yeah, so what do you folks think about pricing?
Okay, I'm sorry, again, what is it
So
cost to produce?
wholesale is 35. And they retail normally for 75, but of course we can sell them for, whatever we want, so.
What are the dimensions again? What are the dimensions
The
of it?
dimensions are 48 by 68. So they're pretty, yeah. They're pretty big. And if you've ever had, a Bates throw, these throws, especially being cotton, they're so comfy. They're really soft, they're really comfy. So,
But we could start with the $75, then always lower it like around Christmas time or something like that.
I think most of the people that are gonna buy these aren't gonna quibble over $60 versus $75. They know it's gonna be as a donation type thing for a worthwhile cause, so I doubt it'll make a lot of difference in the sales.
Yeah.
And
I agree with
if you
Steve.
sell it for 60, then that'll you're only making $25 a piece, so.
I was thinking split the difference and go sell it for 70, because that's like 70 as opposed, double it.
Yeah.
It's like you say 75, wow, that's almost $100. Oh my God.
I know, but 70.
But if you 70, it's like, oh, 70 isn't that bad.
$69.95.
Yeah, right, $69.95, there you go.
So, I think, I think 70 is kind of a
Yeah.
good number for
Yeah,
that.
that's a good number.
Doing them, 50% margin.
Right, and also that's one of the sales things is like, half of that money goes directly towards our building.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris, maybe at Apple Fest, you could start generating an interest list. In
Yes.
other words, somebody that's interested.
I'm gonna do a pre-sale
Yeah.
list.
Well, no, but I mean, for the whole project. So people want to be able to help us
Oh,
out in the
yes.
future
Oh,
or want to
yes.
be contacted.
Exactly.
Right.
So get
Yeah.
their name, their
Yeah.
email, phone number, address.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, should we start the Facebook page again?
It's up there. Save the Academy is still up there. And I can redefine it as being, help us reach our goal or, something like that. But yesterday, was it yet? No, it was Tuesday. What day is it? Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday, Larry and I talked a little bit about having like a special, if you wanted to donate this much towards saving the bell tower or this much towards saving, the front, that if you, would be more of a sizable donation, we could then do one of those plaques, saying that, Bill Agresti is the one I'm thinking of, donated to help save the, bell tower or, something like that, to have specific things.
And have like a roll of honor inside the
Right,
building.
right,
Who were the big donors.
right.
And then you
right.
could say we need 35,000 maybe, or 25,000
Right.
for the bell tower and.
Right. But I know that we're hoping to get a grant towards the belt. Weren't we, you're gonna get the information?
I'll find out, yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and give it to Sarah to make it work. Make it work.
Definitely right. And I'm really curious. I think his name was Mike Pullen, kept talking about like the main, I don't know what they're called, but I researched. And so it was like, there was a grant that so many of the structures qualified for. And one of them was the main grant. And another one was, I can't remember the abbreviation, I wrote it down, but they all were funded through this grant, like over and over again. And I'm like, okay, the grant money through that Stephen and Tabitha King could only be used, by the way, if it were going to be serving as a library. So we don't qualify for that.
Literacy.
Mhm.
But Yeah, there are lots of, there's so many grants.
Yeah.
Get those fingers tippy typing.
Call the Alphons.
Linda, if you could forward that email we got from Maine Historic Preservation.
Well, I was just gonna say, so yesterday, I did a letter of inquiry to Maine Preservation. They have this, I think it's 1772 or 1792. It's a specific grant. It's $10,000. We have to match the 10,000, obviously, which we would. So I submitted a letter of inquiry on that. The deadline was November, but I figured why not get it in? And then there's no guarantee that we'll get invited to apply, but if we do get invited to apply, then, maybe that's something Sarah would be able to work on. But I figured, hey.
And if Sarah could write for that letter of eligibility for historic preservation, to get on the National Register of Historic Buildings, then that would help us maybe get some grants too. I think I emailed that to you.
Didn't you include the entire committee on that email? I thought you
Yeah.
did.
I didn't have Steve's email and I didn't have Sarah's
Okay,
email.
I think you probably want to decide as a committee if you want to try to get this on the historic
Well, didn't
register.
they recommend that you can at least get on the inquiry
Yeah, if you.
list? It
the
doesn't,
eligibility.
eligibility,
So, and
yeah.
that's all. We
Yeah.
would just say we're eligible.
I'd like
but-
to kind of research that a little bit first to find out if we get on this list,
Are we?
What are
what are our limitations?
Yeah.
Right.
But we can
Because
do
I've
that.
worked on a couple historic projects like that.
Oh,
And if you're involved in that, then you have to leave the old baseboard. You have to,
Yeah.
it can be a real pain in the butt.
But I think that's if you're using federal money, if you're not using federal money, I don't know. It's something we should explore.
Absolutely. I mean, why
You
not?
might want to talk with with Paul and John, because they're going to have some connections too. And I know a couple of them, when they were doing their interviews, said they can help with the process.
Right,
too.
right.
So you
Good
might
idea.
want to talk with them,
Yeah.
hold off on that discussion until you have that meeting with them.
Okay.
But I will forward that to Steve and to Sarah.
Thank you. I'm waiting for the next number.
The only thing, after I finish the Apple Fest and all of that, I'm gonna start trying to, contact Gary Crocker and try to work on seeing if we can put together an event at Compton Hall for fundraising and have Dennis be our master of ceremonies, because he could entertain us for a good half an hour anyway, and then Gary Crocker, and we'll look at, I would love to have, I think Pat Dorian is probably one of the funniest people I've ever heard tell stories about and he's got some funny ones. I mean, I've heard some of the really bad ones that you don't want to talk about in public with criminal investigations and things. But they kept a whole room full of law enforcement and district attorneys and dental hygienists laughing if we worked with, Pat and Chris McCabe perhaps, and had them come and local Monmouth talent, tell some tall tales, which Pat's would be.
Yes.
We still laugh about my father. Billy and Pat were lost in Florida, but Pat does all the orientation and finding of lost people as game wardens.
Yeah.
So, and that'll be my next thing, and then work on a chili chowder challenge. So those are my next things on my list. So.
Anything else for fundraising?
I see something, the name of that funding, it's CDBG.
Community Development Block Grants. Last I knew, we couldn't get them.
Okay.
I noticed that a lot of their projects were funded, most of them were funded. They received those funds, so I don't know.
The community development block grants are usually limited to communities with a substantial poverty level. And sometimes it can be a pocket of your community that will be eligible for them. But last I knew, Monmouth did not qualify because the income levels were too high.
I was curious about that because I'm like, how did Corinna, I don't know if you've ever driven through Corinna, but it's a very poor town. And they received a ton of funding on their building. So that's why.
Yep.
Okay, anything else? All right. Motion to move on to the next,
You don't need a motion.
no, don't, so we just,
Take it up.
okay, so I just go to item 5. Setting the time and agenda items for our next meeting. Guys,
If we're, Paul and Turk are selected and pass the select board, would we invite them to that meeting? Because I think it'd be good for us to get some preliminary designs, even if they're just hand sketched something. One of the biggest problems I see at this point, as far as the construction goes, is picking out the final use of what the building is going to be and how we want it to be, because we can't really move forward on design until they know what to design.
Right.
Brainstorming on.
Yeah, and they could come up with some thumbnail sketches for us and some suggestions,
absolutely.
I would think.
So Dawn, maybe you should ask them for when the best time would be for them in November or October or whatever.
Well, if they could,
October would be best.
Yeah.
Keep in
Yeah,
mind,
we're going
that besides the design stuff, we've got demolition to do.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
needs to be done first.
Right.
Mhm.
So you mean, October 6th is the select board.
Yeah.
So we should, of course, meet after that.
That's 2 Wednesdays. What's today? The 23rd, so 29th and 6th, okay. Do we want to go the following week?
We need to give them some time maybe to make those
Maybe the
drawings.
19th of October?
Or is that too late?
Chris will not be here that night.
The
Neither will I.
The 19th.
Yeah,
Which
that's,
night?
Well, how
No.
about
Oh, yes, the
other days
19th.
that week?
Yeah,
that
so
Well,
I could do the 12th. And then the next week, we've got all kinds of fun stuff going on with.
I could do the 12th.
select
I
board.
won't be here the 12th, but you guys don't need me. Although I don't know who's gonna get the Zoom going for you.
Right. Well, what?
And besides which, Sarah, you're not available on Tuesday nights, right?
Right. What nights are you available, Sarah?
I know Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays. I know Fridays are not good for most people, but
So you prefer Wednesdays?
Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays work for me.
Oh, are you good days? Okay. All
No,
right.
thank you.
So what Tuesdays?
I can do the 12th.
I can do the 12th.
We
I
could
won't be
call,
here.
Yeah.
we could call Tim to hook us up.
Oh, Lord.
He was here for what, 20 minutes?
We're being recorded.
I know.
I'm going on YouTube after this.
Yeah, so are you available on the 19th? No?
No,
That week?
we're doing town
Yeah.
manager interviews on the 18th and the
Ah,
19th.
Okay.
So the
So I
14th
can
is out.
I'll take.
Sarah, did you
minutes.
say you're
I don't
not
have a problem
available on
taking minutes.
Thursdays?
So
I am available Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays.
So what about the 14th?
14th would be better for
I'll
me.
be in.
Okay.
If you can.
I can do 14.
I can do 14.
I'll
Can
be
you
in
zoom in?
Presque Isle. No, that's, my presentation starts at 6, so I'll be, I'll be
21st.
21st?
That's another 4-night out that week for us.
I may be out of town on the 21st, so.
I mean,
So the 12th is
On the
Linda, it's-
14th.
I could probably make the
yeah,
12th.
the 12th, and I'll take minutes since Linda's not here.
No,
and
you don't have to
take-
do the
No, it's
minutes.
just a matter,
Libby-
it's
Libby
getting us.
watches the
do it. Oh, okay.
recording
It
afterwards
doesn't-
if she
oh,
can't
okay.
be here, but you have to get the Zoom up and running.
Well, I don't think that's a huge deal. Is it?
I don't know.
I can teach
You
you.
can show me.
I'll show you.
Okay,
so
so
let's do it on the
early.
12th.
Okay. so
On
we're
the
gonna
12th,
go for
the
October
12th. At 6.
I won't be here at all. I'm leaving for Auburn at 4:30 that day, so. You will have to come for the select board meeting on the
Yes,
6th.
that's
and I
what I
will show
meant.
you how to do it.
Yes, that's what I meant.
All right, great.
We'll have plenty of time to practice.
So the 12th at 6 here.
And you're inviting them for that night
Yeah.
also? Yes? Okay. Yay, okay.
And I would imagine for that, that would be the only topic. For the evening.
Yeah. So you don't want to do fundraising, and you will want to set the time
Yeah.
for the next
yes.
meeting though, but no fundraising on that agenda.
No, we can
No.
go on to the next one, so.
And if, I don't know if Libby's available that night, but if she's available to be in person, she can get the Zoom
Yes.
set up for you
Okay,
too.
all right. So 12 at 6 and
I assume we'll have a signed contract with Paul and Turk.
Yeah, it'll, the select board will award the bid to
Mhm.
them and authorize me to sign an agreement for architectural and
Okay.
engineering services.
All right, I was wondering who was gonna draw up the contract, if you had to do that, or if they would, if they had one, or,
They will, and I'll run it by our town attorney before
Okay.
it's signed.
Good.
That's why the sooner we notify them, the better.
Mhm. Yep, absolutely. So we can do that right after the meeting. Okay, we all set with that, the 12th at 6 and
Public comment.
yeah.
Is any public?
Ron?
No public.
Do you have any public comment?
You guys just did a great job, I think. And Sarah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, that's
All right,
it. Motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Lori, motion to adjourn. Do you need to do it? You can second. All right.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Bougie,
Yes.
Mrs. Gifford,
Yes.
Mrs. Hodgson,
Yes.
Ms. Sanborn.
Yes.
Mrs. Simpson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wow, this was fast.
Good, 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 good.
Night, Sarah.
Good night, Sarah.
No.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.